Hello and welcome to this special edition of the Golf Channel podcast with Rex and Lav. We are both at the Players Championship, TPC Sawgrass. Rex, we are actually in the same location, separated by about 100 feet, maybe? Yeah, we can actually wave to each other.
No,
But it looks like we're different
no.
locations.
It's 20 feet. It looks like you're somewhere on location. It looks like you've got earmuffs on. It looks like it's freezing cold where you're at. And it looks like I'm in a wine bar in Napa.
It is a very great aesthetic. Yeah, this is about the length of putt that Rory McIlroy missed over and over again in the opening round. We'll certainly be getting to Rory. What was your big takeaway on day one? You look at the leaderboard, Chad Ramey, first timer here at the Players Championship with a bogey-free 8 under 64 one-shot lead over Collin Morikawa. Scotty Scheffler with a good day. Jon Rahm scraped it around 71. Rory 76. What are you feeling at this hour? Your biggest takeaway?
Someone in the media center made this comment earlier in the night, and given the context of where we are in golf, and you and I have certainly spent a lot of time talking about designated events and where the tour is heading, it seemed like the middle class spoke up on the PGA Tour today, because you got Chad Ramey, you got Taylor Pendrith, you got Ben Griffin, Minwoo Lee. I mean, I can keep going down the leaderboard. This is I wrote. And I was absolutely 100% positive that this leaderboard, this players, was going to deliver nothing but the stars, nothing but the top names. And I could not, at least,
you definitely need to wipe that off the internet.
Yes, that didn't age well. Like most of my takes, that did not age well. I didn't feel like I was going out on a limb. I kind of looked at the 4 designated events that we've already had this year. It felt like that. Yeah, of course we are. It's TPC Sawgrass. It's a great golf course. It's a great field.
Exactly.
We have
that should have been the reason why your column should have never existed, because it is TPC Sawgrass. I thought Brandel the other night on Live From did a fantastic job of highlighting the players. You have had like the player who led the field in driving distance with Jason Day has won this golf tournament. You had a player in Fred Funk who was one of the last in driving distance, won this golf tournament. You had a player who led the field in driving accuracy in Webb Simpson, who's won this tournament. You had a player in Cameron Smith last year who hit the fewest fairways of any champion. We've had Strokes game wizardry. We've had players who couldn't get up and down. You had players who had made everything, players who couldn't make anything. Like, this golf course does not favor anyone. And yet, for some reason, 144 PGA Tour players, you thought we're just going to get a Jon Rahm, Rory McIlroy duel. Tisk, tisk.
Well, it's because what we've had. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Go back to the 4 designated events we've played so far this year. We've ended up with Jon Rahm and Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy and whoever else has been in the mix. It seems like that what we wanted has delivered. And I'm not even saying that's not going to be the case. We're just 18 holes in. I think a lot's going to change over the next 3 days.
I still think we're going to have that, Rex, don't you? I still feel like we're going to get
I'm not going there.
Deserving worthy winner. You don't think so? I still think this is has the makings of a Collin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler back 9 duel on Sunday. I really do.
I mean, no, 100% we're going to get a worthy winner. Is it going to be someone that's in that, I don't know, top 10 of the world ranking? Is it going to be one of those stars? I don't know.
Last 3 years,
well,
top 10 winner.
Again, you're making the argument I made yesterday, and as we've already established, that didn't age well. We're also doing this live, which seems like a wildly reckless thing to do, that our boss, Mercer Baggs, thought it was a good idea, and that he's going to find out that it's probably not.
I mean, there is no delay. There's no delay. We could say anything.
1 syllable away from being canceled.
Yeah, getting super canceled. Rex, you just did a Live From hit, literally 10 minutes ago. What did you touch on and why?
I was, and I kind of got a stink eye from Todd Lewis, who I was with on Live From. He asked me what we were talking about, and I said Chad Ramey and Ben Griffin, and he sort of rolled his eyes, and I said, "I'm sorry." Yuck. I said, I thought we were in the storytelling business. I want to tell some stories. That is the opposite of me being so wildly wrong with my column on Wednesday, is that we do get a chance to tell these stories. And with Chad Ramey, I thought it was fascinating. And it seems like he kind of caught a stray in this, because Todd starts the interview, or starts asking me this question, pointing out that Chad Ramey finished dead last in Maui to start the year. And in the winners only field, he finished dead last. And I said, well, to pile on, he's also missed the last 3 cuts. So there was no reason to expect him coming into this event to play well. And when I asked him after the round, what was it? Did you change your swing? Are you doing something different on the greens? He said, no, it was all attitude. He and his wife, Kelly, gave birth to their first child last week. Boy.
Oh, it's hashtag perspective season.
That's right, Nolan. It's a whole new perspective. And he admitted that that's probably why he played well today. He said, I just didn't put any pressure on myself. I wanted to get back to my room. I wanted to FaceTime with him. I missed him. I'm sad I'm not there. However, if I'm going to be away, I might as well make the most of it. And I think this is a perfect example of, we talk about it all the time. It seems silly sometimes, but he had a different perspective, and it clearly changed his results at the very least.
Different perspectives, certainly different results on the greens is what I would point to. He gained 5.5 strokes on the field on the greens on Thursday. Is that sustainable? No, that is not sustainable for the duration of the Players Championship. He's going to have to strike the golf ball better than he did in the first round. He was outside the top 50 in both strokes gained off the tee and approach. He cannot rely on making 150 feet worth of putts every single day, Rex.
Well, and I do want to point out that the other
sausage fingers up.
Sausage finger went up. The other player that I did a note on was Ben Griffin, and he's kind of at the other end of the spectrum. He's coming off a tie for 14th at Bay Hill last week, and I had a chance to talk with his manager, who kind of put this is the way he explained it, and this is how the designated events are really going to sort of change the narrative on the PGA Tour. That was his first designated event, and being in that field on a difficult golf course against one of the best fields of the year with that atmosphere really prepared him for this week. This is his first Players Championship, and his manager said he showed up comfortable. Like that probably would not have been the case had he not gone to Bay Hill and performed last week. And he also said that, and again, this kind of adds another layer to the narrative that is the designated events, is that he was mad when he wasn't in Los Angeles. He was mad when he wasn't in Scottsdale. And so I think once these young players...
He's really going to be bad next year.
Yeah, probably. Or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe he plays his way in. That remains to be seen. Maybe that churn rate is what they say it is. But I think it shows you what these young players are going to end up doing if they have this opportunity. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about it. But once you get exposed to it, you just want more. You're not going to go and play in a designated event next year and be like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to go to the non-designated event. Like, you're going to want to stay there once you get to that top of that mountain.
I certainly agree with that. And Justin Suh is a player who's kind of gotten battle tested, right, over the past month as well. Was certainly in the mix at Honda tournament that you covered. Another top 25 last week at Bay Hill, the Arnold Palmer Invitational. He's actually 5 under. He did not finish his opening round. Justin Suh did not. 21 players did not finish.
Got an eagle putt first thing in the morning.
At TPC Sawgrass. Yeah, 30-foot eagle putt on 16, and then has to play 17 and 18. And what should be some pretty benign conditions. So Justin Suh sitting right now at 5 under par. Don't be surprised if he gets in the house at 66 or 65. Rex, for me, apparently your biggest takeaway was Chad Ramey and Ben Griffin. For me,
100%.
It was the play of Rory McIlroy. I went out early this morning, 7:56 start time, a.m. Eastern time, to see the top 3 players in the world: Jon Rahm, Scotty Scheffler, and Rory McIlroy, who have played together. And look, Rory's tone was set for the entire Players Championship with the double bogey. He hit it right, kind of tugged it left of the green after a really thick lie, chopped it over the green into a bunker, and couldn't get up and down from there, and walked off with a 6. A 76, Rex, was Rory's highest score on the PGA Tour in more than a year, since weekend 76s last year at Bay Hill. Didn't do anything well. He talked a lot afterward about how the driver switch has not gone well over the past month. But he looked like, statistically, it's been fine. Like, he's not as dominant, obviously, as he has been over the past couple of years, but he's still a top.
Is that what you think about Rory when you think about his driver? It's been fine. Rory isn't fine when it comes to driving. That's his stick.
But like, he's well above average. Like, he's still a top 20 driver on the PGA Tour. What has been plaguing him over the past year, or excuse me, over the past couple of months, is his putting. Rory McIlroy is coming off the best putting year of his career. Like, a lot of credit obviously has to be given to Brad Fax and the work they've done over the past 4 or 5 years, kind of fine-tuning his stroke. He's much more consistent. And this year, he just hasn't quite found the touch on the greens. He's ranked outside the top 150 on the greens so far. It was a dreadful day in the opening round. Made like 40 feet worth of putts, took 31 swipes, lost 2.5 strokes to the field. And more than just kind of any deficiencies in his game, Rex, he just seems a little tired. He just seems a little weary. It just seems like, and obviously this is not a good week for him to be feeling this way. It just seems like the burden of the past year that's been thrust on his sculpted shoulders, it just seems to be wearing down on him just a little bit. Did you get that sense at all?
I think so. And you and I discussed this morning on Live From. I really think, and look, I don't want to make excuses for Rory McIlroy. He wouldn't want me to make, or anyone to make excuses for him. As the commissioner, Jay Monahan, pointed out earlier in the week, last week at Bay Hill, He sat in a policy board meeting earlier in the week that was 7 hours long. That sounds like torture to me. I can't imagine anything that could possibly be worse than sitting through a 7-hour board meeting, and yet somehow he finished to be in contention at Bay Hill, hard golf course.
He was tied for the lead with 5 holes to go. Like, it's improbable. It's remarkable he's able to do that. Yeah, probably
should have won if he'd have taken the time on the 14th tee to glance up at the leaderboard. However, the fact that he was able to do that is sort of that testament that we've been talking about for the last year, that somehow he's able to shoulder all of these expectations and be the spokesperson for the PGA Tour. And it's really, really impossible to imagine how difficult that could be. To your point, yeah, he looks tired, man. Like, and you and I both have seen him all week long, whether if it was in a practice round or it was in the locker room or walking through the parking lot. He's just getting lit up from every corner. Every player wants to talk to him, whether if it's Justin Thomas and it's a pat on the back that, yes, we're doing the right thing, or if it's whoever else, it's a middle-class player and he's not happy with what's going on. And he's had to take it all. He has to sit and he has to listen to it and he has to take it and he has to try to make his own argument. That has to be exhausting when you're trying to get ready for this championship.
Look, we're not making excuses for him. Last year, he was just as influential or impactful on conference calls and in the boardroom than he was inside the ropes. Like, the burdens that he faced last year were probably even greater than what he's currently facing. Like, right now, they're just kind of trying to figure out the 2024 designated event model. And look, we're sitting here on March 9th. They haven't quite released the schedule yet, but we know at least what the designated model is going to look like. The burden should be lessened, right? Like, you're not going to have the flow of live defections like you had last year. It's not going to be the PGA Tour scrambling and the leadership scrambling and the star players scrambling to try and salvage the PGA Tour and kind of stem that tide. All of that burden should be going away for the rest of 2023, which, if you're Rory McIlroy, like, you're looking forward to that day. Like, you're looking forward to the day where you can focus on your game. And as he put it in his press conference on Tuesday, like, I have other things I like to do in my life, and I'm looking forward to getting some of that free time back, just to kind of strike the balance and not be so heavily invested in this.
Not 7-hour board meetings. I don't like. I have other things that I could possibly do with my life. You're right. Now we're kind of probably ignoring that there are still a lot of moving parts behind the scenes that we don't know about. I mean, who knows what the schedule looks like? We've addressed this. Like, however it is they come up with, and they call it sequencing, they call it flow, whatever it is they're going to try to do with the schedule. Cadence. Thank you. All the keywords. Whatever it is they're going to try to do is going to be difficult. So I'm sure he still has plenty on his plate. Can he continue to balance it? Like, I think you and I both were kind of in awe, like a lot of people in golf, that he was able to do both last year. He was able to take all the smoke. Like, whatever it is you want to give me, I'm going to stand up for the PGA Tour when I'm in a microphone. And then when I have a golf club in my hand, I'm going to speak even louder. I can't imagine how difficult that is. And going forward, it's only going to get more and more difficult because he's always going to be that face. Tiger Woods isn't here. Tiger Woods isn't walking through that door to take some of the smoke from him. And it's only going to get more and more challenging. And you're right. He looked tired.
Yeah, like, this is obviously a legacy defining portion of Rory McIlroy's career. We've already seen the major championship portion. He won 4 in quick succession, and now he's kind of in, I call it the athletic prime of his career. He's still young, he's still fit, still plenty hungry and ambitious. And look, he's obviously shouldered a lot of these past couple of months, and we can kind of nitpick in some of these deficiencies that he's had in his game. Maybe he's not driving it as dominantly as he was. Maybe he's not putting as well as he was last year. Fact of the matter is, Rex, he won in his season opener in Dubai without his best stuff. He kind of got by there with great course management, a lot of guts, a lot of guile. Probably should have won last week in Bay Hill, baked out, stressed out venue, arguably the hardest non-major venue that these players are going to face all season long. Like, he could be standing here on March 9th with 2 wins already in the calendar year, backing up his FedEx Cup title a season ago, and I think the narrative around him is different. And so this was just a little bit of a clunker. I think it wouldn't surprise me at all. Now, I think the wins are supposed to pick up. I'll have to check with Steve Burkowski on that, whether the wins pick up on Friday afternoon at TPC Sawgrass. He certainly has his work cut out for him to make the cut, and I think the live bots are certainly going to be all over him on social media if he happens to miss the cut in this what is going to be a rare 72-hole tournament on the PGA Tour, at least for the superstars.
As you pointed out in your humble brag, you were up early to follow around that marquee group. You had some thoughts on Jon Rahm's driving. I'm just
I've
curious.
had
After
thoughts.
day one, on day one, have those thoughts gone either way? Because what you tried to explain to me is you think he's trying to change his swing to play
Nope.
more of a right to left tee shot. That's what you
No.
said. So I'm
Nope.
curious if you've come around to a different perspective or not. You have thoughts.
Not exactly what I said. We did this on Monday in my backyard. I said I had a hunch that he was trying to incorporate more draws into his repertoire, not just in anticipation of this
I was
Players'
paraphrasing,
Championship.
but I got it right. So I'm not quite sure why we're nitpicking here. You think he's trying to hit a draw?
Well, as I approached him on Tuesday to ask him about this, he's like, "You have to hit a draw. Like you don't have a choice but to hit a draw on some of these holes. If I aimed left and try to hit the bullet fade that he loves so much, like I would clank them into the trees. Like you have no choice but to turn the ball over right to left, which is why a lot of players struggle on this golf course and maybe even don't do particularly well at Augusta National in a month's time. What I have noticed, Rex, is he still doesn't quite have full control of his go-to shot with his driver, which is aimed on the left side and hit that bullet fade that runs out 325. But if he does need to turn the ball right to left, and there are numerous holes at TPC Sawgrass and again in a couple weeks' time at Augusta National where you absolutely have to turn it over right to left, he's opting for the 3-wood. That is not a non-traditional strategy, as Jon Rahm explained to me. He goes, Tiger Woods very rarely in his heyday was hitting a draw with the driver. He was hitting a very controlled fade, and then if he needed to turn it over right to left, think number 10 at Augusta National, right, or number 2 here at TPC Sawgrass. He would just opt for the 3-wood. He's still plenty long, and he's probably going to get a little bit more chase when he takes that club. I see that same strategy or course management being deployed by Jon Rahm, and that's how it played out here at TPC Sawgrass, the Players' Championship on day one. It's still not quite there yet with the big stick, and yet he's won 5 of his last 10 tournaments, right? Like if he made a couple more putts today, he's shooting 69, 68, and he's squarely in the mix for this championship. He's 7 shots back heading in to the second round, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he can fine tune that driving on what is a very difficult golf course, that he could once again find himself in the mix for title number 6.
I think I told this story after the American Express, but after his first 2 rounds, and he was miserable. He was not happy. He was in a mood, Jon Rahm, all week long out in Palm Springs. After those
tournament he won. A tournament he won.
Thank you. And we're waiting to go on air after the second 64, and he's just in a mood. He's grumpy. He doesn't want, to really be there. He doesn't want to be talking to anyone. And I finally just turned to him and I said, which one of those 64s did you hate the most? And he did kind of crack a smile. I did get through the exterior a little bit. But after that victory on Sunday, when I was talking with his caddy, Adam Hayes, he said the exact same thing that you just said, that he's not driving the ball well. And I don't know that. I think you're right. I don't know that has changed. I don't know that it's that he's trying to hit some sort of a draw. This goes back to Martin Keimer. And, this is the cautionary tale. Don't change what is a very, very good thing just for 1 or 2 tournaments. Like, you're right. You've got to hit just a snap hook off 10 at Augusta National. But if it requires you to change something that you do very well and to put yourself in jeopardy of not doing that thing very, very well, then 10's only a hole you have to play 4 times a year. Focus on all the other holes that you have to play. So it is a cautionary tale. I would be reluctant to sit here and say that he's trying to hit a draw more than that bullet fade. He's probably right. There's just some holes where he's just trying to figure it out.
He's trying to play the holes as they are designed to
properly
be played.
Sure.
Yeah. I think my thesis was debunked, and he kind of took exception to the fact that people don't think that he can hit a draw, or that he's just kind of a one-trick pony, that he can only hit the fade. Like Jon Rahm is a complete golfer. And when he's kind of in full flight, he has full control of his golf ball and can do whatever it is he wants.
You hit him with never mind. I have a putting question. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Nope. We were focusing squarely on driving and what his strategy is. We're trying to keep these things somewhere around 20
yes,
or 25
Jason, we
minutes.
know we're 15 minutes in. Thank you, Jason.
Yep. We're going a little deep on this. As we tend to do. Collin Morikawa shot 65. Collin Morikawa, of course, if you listen to the season opening podcast, Rex is the player that you predicted that would fall outside the top 25. He is firmly entrenched at number 10. Could have won at Kapalua. Has
Still
a trio.
Early. Could have won.
Could have won.
Did not.
A trio of top 6 finishes so far this year, mostly in big events. You buying this Collin Morikawa resurgence. Miscut last week, went a two-way miss, but shot 65 and looks very much like that dude who was the man to beat in 2019, 2020.
Playing really well. Can't take anything away from him. You're right. That's what I predicted. I'm going to own that, just like my bad column on Wednesday, because that's what I do. I own all those failures. However, I will say that I thought Jaime Diaz right before I went on live from tonight, did a great job of explaining what he's doing with his putting and how he's working very, very hard to become a more consistent putter. And I think that's the one thing that I've always gone to, that I just didn't feel like he was consistent enough on the greens that he could win a major. He could win 2 majors just like he has. I just didn't know if that putting was going to hold up over the long term, if he can find that groove and find a way to be more consistent. Not a great putter. I mean, I'm not trying to turn him into Brad Faxon, just a little bit more consistent on the greens. Yes, then I will own that was a terrible take. I had plenty of terrible takes. Come on.
Yeah, we all have terrible takes.
It's funny that we talked about Rory. We talked about Jon Rahm. Scotty Scheffler actually won that 3-ball today. He shot 4 under. Like, he was the low ball today, and we haven't mentioned him at all.
I mean, Scotty Scheffler's going to win this tournament. We're going to spend the next 3 days talking plenty about Scotty Scheffler. Just to button up your point, Rex, with Collin Morikawa, I talked to his swing coach, Rick Sessinghaus, earlier. He said, look, he's swinging it like he was in 2019 and 2020. He's playing those. He said he's hitting I never actually heard this phrase before. He's hitting a body cut, which is kind of like it's a rotational shot. You remember last year he was hitting what he was calling a draw. It was basically like a 2-yard draw. Like, you and I would love to hit that shot, like have that shot in a repertoire, and it was driving him absolutely nuts because it was coming out a different window than he was planning and falling a different direction than he was accustomed to. But he's back to hitting those body cuts. He said his body's in better shape. He's more flexible. It's moving the way that he wants to. And that the biggest difference, Rex, is with that putting. Working with Stephen Sweeney, they now have a foundation. You remember when he won the 2020 PGA at Harding Park, when he won the 2021 Open Championship at Royal St. George's? Collin Morikawa actually led the field that week in putting, but that was the exception, right? That was the anomaly.
That was the exception. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all throughout the year, he was outside the top 100 in putting. He didn't know why he putted well or why he putted poorly. Now, Stephen Sweeney, a renowned putting coach, has given him a baseline, given him a foundation. He's given him the same drills to work on. And so it's easy fixes. It's easy tweaks. He doesn't ever feel like he's getting down the wrong path. What are you anticipating tomorrow? What do you want to see? What is your eye on as we look ahead to Friday at TPC Sawgrass?
A little bit easier conditions tomorrow, according to Burko, who did. I think he did at least one weather report today, if I'm not mistaken.
We should have had him on this pod to break down second round conditions.
Just completely do a weather report. Do 20 minutes of weather report. That's like his heaven, right there. A little bit easier conditions. I would expect this going to remain the same. And look, this, as you pointed out, this tournament, there is no rhyme or reason to it. You can go from Fred Funk to Phil Mickelson. Like, there's everyone in between. So I'm still not willing to sit here and say that I think my column yesterday is going to come to fruition, that we're going to end up with some sort of combination of, I don't know, throw whatever names you want out there. Collin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, Jon Rahm.
Morikawa duel. I would sign up for that right now.
I would too. I think most people would. I'm certain that the networks would sign up for that right now. However, if you look at the leaderboard, it seems almost inevitable that we're going to end up with a Kurt Kitayama, right? Like, that's just inevitable. Like, I'm not saying that that's who's going to win, that type of player, but they're certainly going to be in the mix. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we have come to the conclusion here that, yes, you want the stars involved, but you also want the stories.
Certainly. And I think, as we saw just a couple years ago, the tournament moved back to March, right? And Justin Thomas went absolutely gangbusters on the weekend to win that title. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities that I think Xander Schauffele shot even par 1 over today. Like, so he begins second round 9 shots back. It's not inconceivable that a player of his stature could go nuts on the weekend and make a charge and walk away with the Players Trophy. I am interested, Rex, to answer my own question, in seeing Jason Day. Seems like this is a resurgent Jason Day, back inside the top 50 in the world, eyeing another invitation to the Masters. Top 20s in every single PGA Tour start this year. It's great to see the former world number 1 back healthy, first of all, and back in fine form. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in particular on Friday morning. We are supposed to get, potentially, according to Burko, some weather activity moving into the area on Friday afternoon, but I think the good news weekend looks phenomenal. 75 and sunny and about 15-mile-an-hour wind, which should make things just a little bit dicey. Not too dicey. Definitely not what we saw last year. Remember that 40-mile-an-hour winds? Guys hit like 6 and 7 irons in a 7 iron. We're not going to get that goofy, but it is certainly going to be something to think about on a very tricky, treacherous golf course. All right. That's going to do it for this edition, the Golf Channel podcast.
Woof.
With Rex and Lav. We'll be back tomorrow night for another special edition. These mini pods. Hope you guys like it. Leave us some comments. Let us know what you want us to talk about. We'll certainly do our part. We'll talk to you guys on Friday night.
We made it to a live podcast.
Killed it.